we collect over 50 indicators, split them into 7 dimensions from trade, investment, global value chain, people movement, regulatory infrastructure and regulatory connectivities, and also digital integrations, as you've seen in the video, and you will see more during these sessions. So it is 7 dimensions combined, and then from these dimensions, you can look to the progress of regional integration across these dimensions from conventional measurements compared to sustainability measurements. So when you look into the platform, there will be option for you to go to sustainable integrations or conventional integrations, those parts. And we try very hard to cover as much as Asia Pacific economies as possible. We have 58 member states in the region, and we managed to have almost everyone there. It's not perfect because it's very data intensive. You can imagine that 7 dimensions would require a lot of indicators, and very different states of development in the regions mean there are data inconsistency, data missing that we sadly have to drop that out. But at the end, at least we managed to get I think 48 countries at the maximum for the whole Asia Pacific, and you can track their integration among themselves in Asia Pacific, and also integration with the rest of the world. We cover the period from 2010 right now up to 2019, and we continually update the database. So in few months, we will have more years attached to the database. I'm not sure whether the video is ready to continue yet. Tanisha, please confirm. Okay, please continue.
Detail. I can also see that movement of people is really low for both types of integration, while financial integration and regulatory cooperation are encouragingly high. But what does that exactly mean?
Well, the Deepening index varies from 0 to 1, where 0 stands for not integrated at all and 1 for fully integrated.
Okay, so, if ASEAN score for the movement of people dimension is low, it means that ASEAN is not very integrated with Asia Pacific in this policy area. That is straightforward. But what does high integration or low integration translate to in practice?
That's an excellent question. In DigiShri, the scale of integration is determined at the indicator level. This is because, after being calculated, all indicators are normalized to range between 0 and 1. In practice, we use a min-max normalization transformation. This process looks at all existing bilateral values for each indicator and takes the highest value to become 1 and the lowest value to become 0. Then, all other indicator values are scaled between 0 and 1, while keeping their relative distances to the maximum and minimum. Accordingly, full integration, given by an indicator score of 1, simply translates the highest existing bilateral integration relationship found in the indicator dataset. Likewise, no integration at all will correspond to the lowest level of existing integration.
I see. Do you have any concrete examples?
Yes. Let's take a look at the indicator, stock of emigrants per capita, which belongs to the movement of people dimension that we were discussing. In this case, after treating for outliers, we identified that the highest existing integration between two economies corresponded to having 1.94 emigrants per 100 people. The lowest was 0. Accordingly, 1.94 emigrants per 100 people becomes associated with full integration and gets a normalized score of 1. 0 emigrants per 100 people means no integration at all and gets a normalized score of 0. Finally, an indicator score of 1 emigrant per 100 people, for instance, would get a normalized score of 0.52, since it's roughly halfway between full integration and no integration at all.
Cool. I then wonder who in Asia and the Pacific is most integrated with ASEAN. Is it possible to find out?
Yes. Let's scroll down to take a look. It seems that Southeast Asian economies, such as Thailand, Malaysia and Vietnam, are very well integrated with ASEAN as a whole.
This makes sense, since these economies are members of ASEAN. However, it is interesting that East Asian economies, such as China, Republic of Korea or Japan, are also very well integrated. Even more than other ASEAN members such as Cambodia, Laos PDR or the Philippines.
Do you find that surprising?
I was not expecting this at all. Can we get a more detailed view at integration in ASEAN?
We can. RIA has many different tools to help you explore integration in detail. Find out everything you need to know about RIA's tools in the next video of this series. We hope to see you there.
Okay, so that's the overall look of the tools. We try to make it as easy as possible for user to follow and be able to get the data plus the visualizations that they can use directly in their report. So you would find country brief for the group of country that you are interested, and you can download that sheet very easily. I would like to check whether there is any question coming into the chat. I see none, and I see no hands up. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the chat box or raise your hand, and we will call upon you to explain your questions. Next, we will show you more into the detail, so you have ideas of how you would be able to operate on this platform. We will show navigation video, and after that, we will have further discussions.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back to ESCAP's Regional Integration Analyzer, your one-stop shop for all things integration.
Thank you very much.
My name is Nikita.
And I am Pedro. Together, we will be your hosts in this demonstration series explaining everything you need to know about RIA.
In today's video, we will be exploring each one of RIA's sections individually, covering where to find them and what to expect so that you can efficiently navigate the platform and quickly meet your needs.
Sounds great. Shall we get started?
Let's do this. Let's start by continuing where we left off in the previous video. I believe we were just at the end of the integration overview page.
Yes, we did a very interesting analysis on integration between ASEAN and Asia and the Pacific. But I was wondering if we could continue exploring integration in more detail.
We can. In fact, there are a few different options to choose from. Each one is tailored to meet different needs. Let's take a look at them one by one.
Sounds great. The first option we are presented with is the country brief. What can I expect to find here?
If you click on the country brief option and make your selection,
let's continue with ASEAN.
You will automatically get a consolidated two-page brief with all the important information about ASEAN's integration with the world, Asia and the Pacific, and specific economies, across dimensions and years.
Wow, this is super useful. There is so much information about integration here. I will definitely be bringing a few copies to hand out at my next discussion on regional integration.
I am glad to hear. You can choose any economy or group of economies and your brief will be ready to download in seconds.
Awesome, but I am still intrigued about why movement of people integration is so low in ASEAN, and why some non-members are more integrated than members.
Yes. We need to get to the bottom of that. To get more detailed insights on integration, let's take a look at the other sections of the platform. RIA offers 3 additional sections. 1. Intra-group integration. 2. Economy partner integration. And 3. Build your own.
I can see that these are the same sections as displayed above, right?
Exactly. This navigation option mirrors the organization of the platform displayed above.
But what do each of these sections do?
Let's start by taking a look at 1. Intra-group integration. The intra-group integration section allows you to explore integration within a group of economies. In this section, all bilateral relationships between selected economies are aggregated to build an integration score for the group. Here, we are interested in understanding how each economy and dimension contribute to the overall integration of the group. For that reason, integration scores for economies are displayed as symmetric.
What do you mean symmetric? Are there asymmetric integration scores?
Well, yes. In fact, all DigiShri index scores are initially built as asymmetric, meaning that they will change depending on who is selected as a reporter and who is selected as partner.
I can see how that makes sense. Surely, the importance of some cross-border flows changes when measured from the perspective of a country or another. I am thinking of the indicator we saw in the previous video, the stock of emigrants per capita. I can imagine how, for instance, looking at this indicator from the perspective of India, whose population is immense compared to the number of people going to Nepal, would differ from looking at it from Nepal's, whose emigration to India represents a sizable part of the population.
Exactly. In this case, Nepal's score for this indicator with India is actually of 1, while the same indicator in the other way around is of 0.02. The difference couldn't be any starker.
But in this section, the intra-group integration section, economy scores are actually symmetrical, right? What does this mean?
Yes. Since in this section we are interested in how every economy contributes to the group's overall integration, both in terms of integration stemming from it, and to it. Economy scores displayed here are the average between their scores as reporters and as partners. For that reason, these scores become symmetrical.
I see. That is a super interesting perspective on integration. But what if I want to look at asymmetrical integration scores? Is it possible?
It is. This is why we have built Section 2, Economy Partner Integration. In this section, integration is assessed explicitly from the perspective of a particular economy, or group of economies, towards another economy, or group of economies. Here, you have the opportunity to examine integration in more detail, choosing specific relationships of interest and maintaining the asymmetrical nature of integration.
I understand. This will be important to explore integration in more detail.
Indeed. The last section of the platform, Section 3, is the Build Your Own section. In this section, advanced users can take advantage of our extensive datasets to build their own integration indices. This means selecting specific dimensions to form a new index, changing dimensions' weight affecting the overall integration results, and exploring a wider dataset including bilateral relationships excluded from the DigiShri main index.
That is awesome. I was just wondering what integration would look like if we excluded the dimension on infrastructure. At the end of the day, integration is a subjective measurement that can be understood distinctively by different people.
Precisely. With this section, we want to extend an invitation for everyone to take advantage of our extensive dataset and produce unique indices tailored to their own specific needs.
Thank you. So that's the quick tour on how you navigate on the regional integration analyzer. Next, I see the questions. One question in the chat about if this video can be shared with us after the session. Yes, the video will be available on the RIA platform. So please, my team will be putting the URL where you can access the tool in the chat, and once you follow that URL, you will be able to find the video. Yes, so there are. So I think it's a good idea if you sit in front of your computer or laptop or iPad, and if you go to that URL, then you can follow where we are talking about on RIA from your screen. I think that would be also useful as well, because next before because next I'm going to invite Nikita and Pedro to give you examples from real data on the platform. Then we can talk about how you interpret and how you can make use that data, that functionality on RIA. But before I'm going to do that, I see one hands up from Chujat. Chujat, would you like to say something before we going further?
Well, thanks, Vitada, and hi to both Pedro and Nikita.
Hello.
My question is regarding the RIA database, because in last courses of ESCAP, when I was analyzing the database, the data is beyond the current period. Because, for example, if I can say that right now I'm sitting in 2022 and data is till that 2017, 18, or 19, whatsoever is the current update. So how this lag in data will affect the analysis and how it will affect the policy making, and how it can be advocated further?
Very good questions and very classic questions when you're dealing with empirical analysis, because the ideas of doing empirical analysis is you take lessons from what happened in the past to improve your future, right? So when we look at progress of regional integrations from, let's say, 2010 to 2019, you already know what has happened back then. And then you see the results of from your knowledge of what has happened. And this is the results on the progress, the performance of what you are having in terms of integration with Asia Pacific or with the groups of your interest. And that would give you the ideas on how we could fix it if the performance is not up to what you expect, or if there is some indicators reflect that there are still weakness, there are still room to improve based on your experience or other country experience in the past, and then use that information to formulate policies to improve what will happen in the future. I think that's pretty much what in the policy world we will be doing, right? We take lesson learned from other countries, from our own experience, and then we try to revise, reform our policies, and then we will see what would happen. Of course, everything is not perfect, because you fix one thing, there are also other factors that also going on as well. So you probably have to do more than just things that we tell, the data is telling you, because the scope there is limited to one factors at a time.
Kumita, can I just complement your answer?
Okay.
Yes, of course, everything Kumita just said, and I think it's an issue that's not so instant that you need a very instant data. But of course, in this massive database, this is always a concern. And when we started looking at this project and at this methodology, making a methodology that was flexible and easily updatable was a priority. And so we actually managed to develop something that we can, in a much faster way, of course, compared to other platforms and other projects, update this data. So as Kumita mentioned in the beginning, in the next couple of weeks, months, we're going to try to be launching data up to 2021, which is basically an inexistent lag, since we're talking about so many economies and so many different indicators. And it was a concern that we built in the methodologies to make it flexible so that it's easily updatable. And that's why the platform is going to maintain its relevance throughout the years. And that's also a feature of the methodology itself. So just complementing to what Kumita just said.
Yeah.
And I just rephrase my question in a much more simple: how RIA will help in the current time of crisis like the COVID pandemic? Because there is data lag, and now there is a crisis situation going on. Trade has been affected. Regionally, countries are not that much integrated. Borders are closed. So how RIA will help in that case?
Yes, very good question. And definitely, crisis that cause structural change would affect the abilities that the past data would project the futures. That's the reality. And I think even if we put into a simulation models, there's still not perfect ways to capture things that hit and totally change the structures. But I think one way we can do it is you can link how the crisis would change the relationships of the policies that we have from the past, right? For example, if you see trade integration is supporting sustainable development up to 2019, and then you, with the additional knowledge that you know that trade integration is now, suppose it is collapsed or it is not as in a good way as it was in the past 10 years. Then you can also make an implication as well that, okay, then that means one good factors that driving sustainable integration is gone. So what is left? So you go back and then see, is there any infrastructure connectivity is still there? One engine lost, the other engine is still functioning. So things may still moving further, but of course it's less powerful than before. So this kind of experimental analysis could be a way. I mean, if you are a quantitative analyst, you would pull data from our database and then put into simulation models. You chop it, you change, and then you see the effects based on the linkage, right?
Is it okay if I could just add to what you said?
Sure.
Yeah, I think having past data is also useful in terms of when there is crisis or pandemics, because we cannot deny they're going to happen again. So it's useful to study the characteristics of the countries that had reacted well to the crisis and the pandemic, or reacted badly or could not cope. And I think that is very useful in preparing ourselves for what's to come next. So, and also like Pedro said, like we really did focus on having a good data structure because of which 2019 was the period that we created our database on now. But going ahead, we will update it like it was mentioned before. Yeah.
Yeah, so in next few months, we will see, and we are very excited to see as well how trade environment which change during pandemics would affect what we visualize on RIA, because 2020 data will be integrated to the database in few months.
Kunita, let me just also finalize saying that I think what Shujat was asking is a very valid question in the sense that it's okay, something is happening now. How do I get information from what's happening? But let's take it the example of the COVID shock and the indicator that we were just seeing, right? So when we say, oh my God, there's a crisis, borders are closing. The overall scenario is easy to understand. People are we're going to stop moving from country to country, but only the nuance, only with the understanding of what the reality is, you can understand who that's going to impact the most, right? So as we just saw, Nepal has an indicator score of 1 with India. So when we say, okay, India-Nepal border is frozen, you need to understand who that's going to impact. You need to understand who's going to suffer the most, who's going to get the most. Or for example, with trade, if you're going to close borders, or if we're going to have a trade emergency, higher integration of trade can help you pinpoint the relationships that are key for you and the relationships that are not. So when you're producing policy to react to the instant moment, you need the nuance of how the countries relate to each other, how the different dimensions relate to each other, to know where to act, to be effective in acting. So I think that's the example that you gave is actually a very good example to show the relevance of the platform. Is that okay? Awesome.
I see suggestions that we should make user notes and technical notes on platform to be able to download into PDF. And right now it's not possible. Yeah, we just want to keep you on platform. Don't want to go outside. But we will keep that suggestion and then see how to incorporate. Should not be difficult. Okay.
Actually, I think you can. I think actually you can. So this is just a small detail. Yeah, but if you go to the platform on the top,
why don't you share your screen, Pedro? You can share your screen and then
no problem.
over it.
I have to say I had a lot of fun writing the technical notes, so please enjoy reading them. But yeah, okay. So if you go to the technical notes, me and Nikita actually, you just have here on top the download button, and then it's this beautiful Garamond guide. You can see everything that we put in the index and the methodology and all. So yeah, it's just over here.
Okay, there is the questions from Irvin. He asked whether our value chain analyzer is now integrated in the regional integration analyzer. Can you show the screen, the entry screen, please?
Kumita, just
Pedro.
saying that yes, I can, but the guest comment was absolutely right. It doesn't work, so I'm gonna make a note on that. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna make a note on that to fix, because the feature is there, so it's supposed to work. But thank you so much. This is why it's so good to have people looking over the platform. We're gonna take care of that. So
the quick answer is no. Right now, the platform RIVA negotiatetrade.org, we have two gates for you to entry, right? Value chain analyzer is on the right. If you were using it before, it is still there and it still function. On the left gate is regional integration analyzer, which we are showing to you today. There is one interconnection between the tools, because data from value chain analyzers, we use it as well to develop few indicators under global value chains integrations. So that's the connection between the two databases. But you still use these two analyzers to do analysis on different focus if you want to go deep.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay. Until we have next questions, let's Nikita show from real examples of what we can do with RIA. Please.
Yes. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
is it
thank you.
is it good? Yeah.
Yeah, I can share my screen now.
There is a questions about aggregate and disaggregate level of data. How data will go at both aggregate and disaggregate levels, and how long it goes back with numbers of nodes.
The data, like this is also one of the things that we paid a lot of attention to be able to navigate between macro and very micro levels. So in our platform, you can actually go all the way to the indicator and bilateral level. So if you want to have the biggest nuance of having indicator and bilateral relationship, you still have it. And the way it's done, it's fully balanced and it's available for all the years. So in the case, let's just say of Nepal and India, in the indicator, you can go all the way to the indicator that we were talking about. You can have available data from 2010 to 2019. And so it's made to be balanced in the way that you can explore as back and forth as much as possible, up and down. So it's really flexible in that sense.
Yeah, the lowest level of disaggregation, like the most molecular, is the bilateral data, then the indicators, and then the final level of aggregation is the index value itself. Yeah.
I think we have another hand. I can't see where, but I saw a hand flying.
It's me again.
Let's do it.
Again, going back to the theoretical perspective of this whole database, because I'm into my PhD final year and working on the regional integration and value chain analysis in South Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going by my analysis, when I analyze the data, countries with the borders are not very well connected. Nikita can also second that. In South Asia, we have even multiple forums like even SAFTA is not that much effective. SARC is not that much effective, and there are some more regional groups, BBIN and BBIM Mercel are the names, but countries are mostly connected to those far beyond the borders. So what's the actual motivation behind this whole, and how much this is going to play a role in the integration?
But can I ask you a question? So when you're saying that countries are not connected, what are you referring to? What can you?
Well, countries are not connected via border. For example, if I say Pakistan is connected to India via Wagah border and other borders, and to Afghanistan and to Iran.
Yeah, but you say that they're not very integrated, and I'm asking like,
yes,
what do you mean they're not very integrated?
Well, in terms of bilateral treaties or the regional trade agreements, they are not very well connected. Even if I can say that in case of Pakistan, only with two countries where Pakistan did have that bilateral investment treaty was Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Where is the rest of the South Asia? So
exactly, and I think no, 100%, and this is why I think your question is interesting. It's because of that, right? So you can be connected by a border, and then you're failing on regulatory cooperation, or you're failing in terms of integration of trade, or you're failing in terms of integration with infrastructure. This is the biggest question: is when you say they are integrated or they're not integrated, what does this mean? And to answer this question, we actually looked at many different indicators. So it's interesting that you talk about South Asia, because you can see this nuance between Nepal and India, where, for example, regulatory cooperation is very low, although they're like together, but movement of people is extremely high. So when you say we can go back to the level, of course, when you look at those two countries, you have one integration score, which is not very high, as you're saying, which reflects your understanding that in general it's not very high. But we can go understand why is it not high, which indicators are lagging, which dimensions are lagging, and usually these relationships are very heterogeneous. So you can have, for example, in ASEAN, which is what we're going to explain in a second, you have very high levels of regulatory cooperation, but then trade is more integrated with outside of ASEAN, right? You have very little border flows, although they have very high regulatory cooperation. And so this is why we think it's so interesting to look at this concept on a multi-tiered way with indicators, bilateral relationships, because then you can pinpoint what is integration, how is it moving, why is it not moving, you know? Is that a
Yeah, also to echo on what Pedro said, like the integration is multidimensional, but it is also different from the policy analyst point of view. It depends on what you think is integration for your country and their relevant partners. And I think that's where the platform allows you to change that point of view, select and like break down the integration score into dimensions and partners. Yeah.
And thank you so much for your question. It's very exciting.
And then perhaps if looking into a trade perspective, like from Nepal, even majority of the trade is going through India, even to other countries. So how can that score be low? Because
no, we can take a look. I mean, this is why the platform is there. I mean, let me share my screen. I think this is super interesting because this is live showing the platform, right? So if we go, for example, now we're interested in a particular relationship, right? So we're saying, for example, Nepal and India, and if we take a look at the platform, we see that they're medianly. Actually, let's look at conventional integration just because it's easier to have this conversation. So Nepal and India, and very quickly you can see exactly what we just said, right? So in terms of movement of people, they're extremely integrated. Let's not forget that this is Nepal's perspective from in terms of Nepal's to India, and they're poorly integrated in digital economy. In value chains, they were integrated, they were extremely integrated, and over the past years, they started becoming less integrated. And of course, all of this conveys that complex structure of integration that we were saying, right? And this is why you can go all the way to the integration level. So you're asking, oh, why is trade and investment well integrated with India? Well, here's all the indicators. Where does it progress? The exports to GDP progressed a lot. Maybe if we're asking in terms of digital economy where we actually understood that it's pretty low and it's pretty stagnant, we can go there and say, why is this happening? What are the indicators that are contributing to this? ICT goods exports to GDP, Nepal is not intensive at all to India. So that complexity in here, of course, I don't have the knowledge of all of the different integration relationships. So South Asia, maybe you would have a bit more information on that, but this is the point of the platform. You can really go into these relationships and understand them from such a level of complexity that you can get a lot of information. We're saying the share of people using digital financial services in this relationship has increased a lot. So that's good for Nepal, but maybe the share of online shoppers is still very low for this bilateral integration. So this is really the potential of the platform.
So I guess what we are trying to say is, when you talk about integrations, it is multi-dimensions. It is not just about having border connect to each other that make you integrate, right? Some country integrate through trades, but the other dimensions they are not having. For example, they block people from moving to each others, or they simply have different regulations that make it hard to have smooth flows of goods and service. So that's why we have 7 dimensions, and in each dimensions we break them down into different proxies of integration under that domain.
Yeah, I think it is also, I would also like to emphasize that the reason we have 2 different scores of symmetric and asymmetric is so that we can understand from the point of view of either one country or overall, which in fact changes the value of the integration score and what we think of integration score a lot.
Yeah. So in terms of trade, Nepal is actually pretty well integrated with India. Only here FDI inflows to GDP, of course, because it's an asymmetric relationship where India's relationship with Nepal is a lot bigger. Inflows to GDP is pretty low, but in terms of FDI outflows to GDP is actually pretty high. In terms of imports to GDP, it's the maximum integration you can have. So here you understand Nepal is intensely integrated with India in imports. But yeah, that's an excellent question. Like this is why it's so exciting to explore this. There's a world of opportunities.
Yeah, and Chunibo asked about whether the data will be updated. Yes, definitely, we will updating the data every year. We have 9 minutes. Nikita, I'm not sure with 9 minutes how much you can.
I can show a part of the website for sure, and if people have any comments and questions, we can probably continue the conversation on chat, or feel free to like email us.
Yes,
and always looking forward to improve.
We will leave our emails in the chat, and we will happy to provide more answer if we running out of time.
Right.
Can I have one short question again?
Yes.
Well, how you an investment policy monitor where there are a number of bilateral investment treaties given, how that has played the role in designing this whole framework? Because investment is another component of integration. So just interested in knowing about that.
That is the indicator on investment treaties, I believe. Yeah,
I can show that indicator. Yes.
We are looking at intra-group integrations between what, India and Nepal?
No, so intergroup integration has a symmetrical integration score. So we will be looking at integration from a bird's eye view. So for this tool, if you are interested in how a group of economies is integrated with each other, this is the best tool to use. If you're going to look at a single bilateral basis.
You can use India, Nepal, right? As well.
India, Nepal, yeah, we can, if you want to do that, we can do that as well, sure. So I can select India from the list as well as Nepal. And I will be selecting conventional integration for the whole period. You can see on the right all the dimensions that are available and the data availability for this for the scores that will be generated. As you can see, the conventional integration score over here is different from what Pedro showed. And this comes down to the way it is calculated. This is an average of the score of the bilateral relationship between India, Nepal, and Nepal, India. So over here, we are looking at the overall average integration. In that case, we can see that regulatory cooperation is the highest and one of the most important dimensions for the two countries, followed by trade and investment. And it's interesting to see that trade and investment is such a volatile integration dimension. And so is value chains. Value chain is one of the lowest integrated dimension for India and Nepal. I think it's worth noting in these graphs, you can see which dimension has had the most progress between India and Nepal. And it's the digital economy. It was quite low from 2010 to 2014, the integration in digital economy, but it has grown significantly, almost 28% from 2015 to 2019. And value chains has in fact fallen from 0.39 in the first period of 4 years of 2010 to 2014 and fallen in 2015 and 2019. So there is much to be desired in the value chain integration between India and Nepal. When you scroll down, we can investigate further how these dimensions are integrated. And because digital economy did really well, I think it would be useful to look at that. Since we are just looking at two countries, I don't think by economy will tell you much over here. But when you go by indicators, you can see that conventional indicators in the digital economy there are 6 indicators. And the most progress was in average share of using digital financial services. That means between Nepal and India, the trade in financial services and the improvement in the way they are shared between the countries, there has been a significant improvement.
I think that there was the questions about where we capture international investment agreements. So probably you can go straight to.
Yeah, regulatory cooperation is a dimension that considers in conventional integration, it considers 4 indicators. That's the number of FTAs that are signed, free trade agreements between the countries. And over here, it's like almost nearly a perfect score. That means both countries are involved in free trade agreements with each other, whether they have embassies or not, and whether the trade regulatory similarity index. There's also a signed international investment agreements. And it's very interesting to see that India and Nepal they have not signed a international investment agreement. So this is how we consider the trade agreements between countries. There is also a sustainable alternative to this. If you wish, I can show that as well. Do you want to see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so for sustainable, you really have to just go back to the query system and change the integration type. Let me just quickly reselect the countries. Nepal, and we can rerun over here. Just like a quick comment on the integration score, it's lower than the conventional integration score by 0.04, is 0.41. On the scale of 0 to 1, it's close to moderate. It's not the best integration score, but it's not the worst either. So looking at regulatory cooperation again, we can see that there are 4 indicators, and for sustainability, for the trade agreements, we take a sustainable trade agreement indicator, free trade agreement, and sustainable IIA. Largely, we score them based on how many clauses they have related to sustainability, like labor clauses, environment, climate change, etc. Yeah. Yeah. I would be happy to show anything else. Yeah.
Let me deal with the question in the chat first. And
Yes.
yeah, there is a question whether we could expand the tool to include Europe. Right now, we can see how Asia Pacific economies integrate in 7 dimensions with country in Europe. That is possible, but we have not had Europe with non-Asia Pacific, unless we will be happy to expand if there is partner in Europe who want to expand these two together with us.
So sorry, just to expand another thing, which is what Kumita just said is you have to have in mind the reporter and partner mindset. So we have reporter Asia Pacific, so integration with European countries, and here you can actually see if you go in the index, we actually have 182 partner economies worldwide. But it's from the perspective of Asia Pacific economies with this EU economies. We haven't had yet done the other way around, but as Kumitana said, is the methodology is ready. It's just a matter of gauging the interest and understanding if we could go that way.
Questions about whether we can see carbon footprint reductions related to each economy sustainable integrations.
We have a couple of indicators on. Actually, I think we have one indicator on carbon emissions, but it's carbon emissions per dollar of intermediate goods. So it's not really focused on the actual carbon footprint. It's more on the carbon efficiency of the countries, right? So if you're exporting a lot, but you're very efficient, you're going to have a low indicator. I think it's actually a good time to show a bit the that I have available. 1 second. I think my AirPods are betraying me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it would be great to see all of the indicators, because then you can get an overall view of everything that we take into account. Nikita, can you show us the indicator list?
Sure, of course. Just let me share my screen. Which indicator was this?
Just letting people know. No, I mean, like let's go on the indicator list so that people can understand all of the things that we're looking at. It's I believe
introduction.
Sustainable integrations. You can go to sustainable integrations.
So for the indicator list, there is a document called introduction, which kind of lists out all the indicators that we have. So maybe I can show that.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
And that so there is also this document which is shorter, which gives you an idea of why we chose the dimensions that we chose and the indicators that are within them. Of course, we're always looking to expand these indicators and make the dimensions even more widespread and even increase the dimensions that we include. So, sorry, my net is a bit slow, but I think it should load soon.
I have it. I can show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, like I'm literally in the same place where Nikita was. Just I had clicked before, and here you can see for each dimension the conventional indicators. So when you're looking at the conventional index, this is what we're taking into account in each of the dimensions. And in this case, since you're talking about CO2, it's here in value chain integration, and you'll be able to see it under sustainable integration, exports of intermediates per unit of CO2 emissions. So that's the efficiency that I was telling you about. And so there's really a world of opportunities to look here. We understand that people are usually, there's different perspectives and different niches of what is your interest, and that's why once you get to a bit used to this, you can really come here and see what are the indicators that you find more valuable, and then go on the platform and really take a look at it. So here you also have, for example, environmental goods exports in GDP and the imports of GDP. There's a lot of things that, or sustainable RVC participation index. So there's a lot of different indicators that we took into account. But this is a useful resource. I think you'd like to know that it exists.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that, because there are lots of features on the platform that we might miss. So you have to explore it yourself.
Yeah, and we thought of having a 7-hour long tutorial, but that was not accepted. So 1 hour is everything we got.
Okay, I think we reaching our time limit now, and I would take. Okay, there is a request to have indicator link in the chat, so please share the link. Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that would be the last questions of our sessions. We are here. Our email is there, so please feel free to send us more questions, and we will reply. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you will enjoy using our RIA tools, and looking forward to get your feedback as well as to improve the tool further. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pedro and Nikita, for helping me showing the platform.
Thank you, everyone. It was really nice to.
Bye.